The Articulate Coven is the original, unofficial podcast and fan community for Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire and Anne Rice's Immortal universe from AMC and AMC+. Welcome to The Articulate Coven. We're your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are The Articulate Coven. A couple of quid pro quos. No, that's not the word. Couple of advisos. Here we go. Up off the top of the recording. I am recording on the road. I am in California on a cross-country vacation. We went to Disneyland yesterday. We're doing California Adventure tomorrow, and I've got the whole family with me, and all of them except my wife right now are in the hotel room. So if any of my children with their mini devices and headphones in some way react to one of the many wonderfully exciting things that we might say, I gave the example earlier. Kelly was like, "Oh yeah, just tell them up front that your kids are in the room, and maybe they'll hear them in the background." And I was like, "Yeah, for instance, if I shout out something about the Dick Garden, my kids might have a response to that.
there might be a reaction.
To what?
There might not be. They might be so
I don't know.
used to your nonsense that they don't even blink an eye.
They are very used to my nonsense. That's absolutely true. Anyway, The Articulate Coven is the unofficial podcast and fan community for Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire, Anne Rice's Mayfair Witches, the Immortal universe from AMC, and not only those two previous shows, but all the forthcoming shows that they might have for us. And Ashley, I'll just say off the top here, tonight we're going to be talking about episode 5 of season 2. Don't be afraid, just start the tape. This episode, I mean, not like I was waning, but this episode has completely renewed my excitement and expectations for everything that AMC has to offer. This was fucking so great good. TV.
And I feel like this is a bottle episode too. Like, I feel like this is an episode that they were able to do on pretty much, basically 2 sets. They're in like 1 or 2 rooms in Dubai. They're in the apartment in San Francisco. So it's like there's not a lot of, it's just them. It's not any extra characters really. You got a couple of guys at the very beginning, but like, it's kind of like one of those like tight episodes with just your leads, with just the people that matter the most figuring out some shit. And I love this type of episode. A really good example of one I love is The Fly in Breaking Bad. It's just like they were low on fucking cash and by like necessity had to do a bottle episode with just their leads in like one space. And you always get such incredible moments. You get such great story exploration when a production usually is forced to make that choice, but when they get to, which I feel like this is the case, it's even better.
Well, so the one difference I think from the standard bottle episode in this one is that they had for the second set, it's all period, right? And right. So my guess is the set design there and building it, particularly since it's hard to imagine they're going to reuse that set, really.
Right.
So that I think probably this wasn't a cost saving measure that much. I'm guessing.
Right. It doesn't feel like that at all. But
the constraints, you're 100% right, and the constraints of the way I think in the Insider or maybe in one of the interviews that got posted on our Facebook group, which by the way we're on Threads, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, join our group. So there is a page. Somebody messaged me about this and asked the other day. They're like, do you do anything with the page? Yes, we do have a page. We don't do anything there really on the Facebook page. The Facebook group is where we're active. There's 700 members and growing.
The
it's
group
fantastic.
Just became so much fun. I don't think that I completely forgot there was even a page until we got that message.
It's so funny.
Reminder.
Yeah, it is. It's so funny, Ashley. Kelly asked me the other day something about the group, and I was like, do you remember a time when I told you Ashley and I should really try to like trade days and think of something to post each day on like a themes just so that it stays stirred? Like, that is not a problem now, friends. It's hard for me to keep up with all the posts in the group. So thank you.
What's really great is after my second watch, I really got to dive into some of the comments and things that people had already posted that I'd like sort of gone through and sort of cursively liked or loved or laughed or whatever, and then I got to go back and add to it. And I try not to like say too much until we've gotten to record, but after a couple watches, I just couldn't hold it back anymore. I was ready to talk.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Absolutely. Okay, before we get into the episode proper, though, I do have a correction actually from last episode. I was mentioning that the Claudia and Madeline relationship reminded me of, like, Sam and Diane from Cheers, and then I said, or more accurately, Moonlighting. Okay, so I said that Moonlighting featured the winning combination of Bruce Willis and Kathleen Turner. Kathleen Turner is amazing.
Oh, no.
And I do dig her.
Definitely not.
Yeah, it was Sybil Shepherd. Yeah.
But do you know that I fixed that in my head when you said it? I did not notice that you said the wrong thing. In my brain, I was like, oh, Bruce Willis, Sybil Shepherd, they really hated each other. That's what I thought to myself.
It's weird because if you had asked me if those two are that alike, I wouldn't have necessarily said so. But in realizing that I confused them in my head, I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, I mean, they do have a lot in common as far as, like, their appeal and even their look a little bit.
Their appearance, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
They were,
but
like,
yes.
haughty women of the 80s for fucking sure. Like, beautiful, gorgeous leading ladies. Love
Yes. Now, Sybil, God bless her, does not have that voice. Kathleen Turner.
Oh, right? I love Kathleen Turner. My God. Fucking Romancing the Stone. Like, I probably saw those movies way too young.
Like 9 million times, though, right?
Right? There's so much drugs in that first one of those movies. Oh, it's Romancing the Stone.
Yeah. I love them. I love both of those very much. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we watched the first one with the kids. Maybe I'm just imagining that, but I think I've watched the first one with the kids.
It's a good one.
Okay, so but thank you to CTuck622 on our YouTube channel for correcting me on that, because I absolutely
God, please correct us. We just talk out of our asses sometimes too. We get so excited. We just, and since we've known each other so long, our brains do correct each other, and so we're like, yeah, that sounds right. That's fucking hilarious.
Your title card changed. Let's call that out again. You were right. San Francisco and Dubai today.
We got what we thought we would, and I love how everybody is so excited for me in the group. They're like, Ashley, it happened again. Just really appreciate the support, guys. When you have a habit like this that's so hard to kick, it's good to know you have people to do these drugs with.
Oh, God, it's the truth. Okay, so what is your guess for our title card for the finale episode? I don't think we're going to be in 1940s Paris anymore. I think we're going somewhere else. My guess, I'm going to lay it out there. I think we're going to see New Orleans and Dubai, and I think that the New Orleans skyline, I think there will be something that is different in a way that specifically makes it clear this is modern New Orleans. And I'm not sure exactly what that would be. I'd have to go back and look at the season 1 title card to see what you might add to it.
The fucking Superdome might be something to add.
Oh, I didn't think about that, but you're right. The Superdome would work.
Part of the New Orleans skyline. I mean, it's hard for me not to picture that when I'm picturing New Orleans.
So literally referencing your earlier discussion of cost cutting, my guess is that we won't go to a new set or a new location for whatever scenes we're going to see. And my guess is they're going to feature Lestat, I'll tell you here. But those scenes that we're going to see in the modern day that aren't Dubai, I don't think they're going to go somewhere new yet. In season 3, I think we probably will. But I think the primary location in season 3 in the modern day, that's not Dubai. I think they're going to go back to New Orleans. Well, first and foremost, they've got a good deal already with Louisiana for production, to get tax breaks and things like that. And I'm sure the state would love to expound on that. With more seasons.
I mean, it feels very disingenuous to have a show that might be based in New Orleans and not actually film there. Like, that's just fucking absurd when it's so good for the economy down there. It's so good it's good for everybody involved. It's a win-win. It's a very difficult city to create falsely. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of it is that there are so many other parts of the state within easy driving distance from New Orleans that, are very easily coded across the country. You can shoot a scene in Shreveport and it can look like, basically any Midwest city.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay. I love the idea that Armand is playing hard target in Dubai with drug dealers and arm dealers.
He's the most dangerous gaming it.
Yes, yes. Okay, so I went hard target, which is the fantastic, by the way, 90s film with Jean-Claude Van Damme, set in New Orleans.
Oh my God.
He's like Remy LeBeau or something like that is his name.
Fuck
It's
yeah,
not
he is.
however close you could get to Gambit's name without getting a copyright infringement.
Yeah,
And
without getting sued.
and his mentor figure is played by the, of course, obviously authentically Cajun, Wilford Brimley.
Jesus Christ. That man.
His Cajun accent is so terrible.
I bet it is. That he could sell you oatmeal, but I don't know that he could sell you gumbo.
He tried to warn Jean-Claude Van Damme about diabetes, and he couldn't get him.
He couldn't get him to get on board with it. God bless America. Wilford Brimley.
Yeah, so I think Hard Target, it's like this group of rich, crazy guys are hunting mostly Vietnam vets down on their luck in New Orleans and the rest of the South.
Wow.
I think that's what it is. It's crazy.
I need to fucking watch that silly shit. That sounds like a good like weekend dissociation project for myself.
Okay. I thought the interaction between Daniel and Louis in this is just some of the best that we've gotten in the whole series.
It's fantastic.
And it starts right at the top.
Yeah, they right off the bat, like you can tell they're both really comfortable with each other. Like as far as like me being someone who acts and is on stage and performs, like you can tell they have a genuine comfort with each other as performers because they really have a lot of trust and they really let each other push, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, great scene partners. Just wonderful, both very giving as actors, it's clear.
Yeah, I fucking love Bogosian, man. He's such a pro. God bless.
Louis says, his methodology is never violent, I assure you. And Daniel goes, as he's recalling Armand scooping his brains out with his words and psychic powers.
Right. This whole episode feels like an experience I've had once where you have been cheated on and you've been cheated on. It's out, the word's out on the street, and you've been cheated on, and you've gotten together with the person that you were cheated on with, and then you compare notes, and then you find out about all the fucked up overlap that you have.
Oh, Ashley, I had not considered that, but that is a perfect metaphor for it, honestly.
God, that is the vibe of this episode to me 100%. I was like, oh, and when they're standing there at the end, like he comes home and he's like in his Doc Brown sunglasses and he's like, hey, what's up? And they're like, we've been talking about San Francisco.
Okay, I'm not wrong. Those sunglasses were from Malik, right? Malik came into the room wearing those sunglasses. Okay,
I think
good.
so. Yeah, I think for sure. And I did not catch that myself, but someone else in the group commented on it in one of the threads, and I was like, oh yeah, that's fucking brilliant, and I didn't even catch it.
Okay, the way into this is so smart. I had wondered, I don't know if we'd really discussed it on the show, but I had wondered, I'm like, how does it make sense that Daniel would just come out and ask these dudes what they did to him in the 70s? Because they're both vampires. And even assuming that he believes that Louis is not, willfully violent or is also deluded in all of this, even if he understood that and believed it earlier. And so he's trying to, the two of us can work together against Armand. Armand could tear them both to pieces. So, it's a death wish if you just come out and say it, right?
And he also already knows that, Louis already tried to kill him. He does remember that part. You bit me. I remember that. So he does have to tread lightly for sure.
Yes, absolutely. So the fact that you figured out a situation where you get Armand out of the house, and then Daniel sees a window and he thinks, I think Louis is raw, and I think I've got this evidence.
We've got some time alone.
I think I can poke, and I'm going to lean into, and I love, one of my favorite lines in the whole series so far is, and I'm skipping ahead slightly here, but when he decides to pull out the audio and drags it out onto the screen and does the little
Yeah.
No, no. Okay, here it is. He says, yeah, my note is, I love watching and hearing Daniel decide to play the tape. It's one of Eric's best moments, and for most of it, he's not even on screen. It's like his hand is all you can see. He goes, yeah. And
Yeah.
then he opens up the file, and that's when he prefaces it. He's like, look, this is not going to feel like a surprise. This is going to feel like an ambush.
Right, which I love that. I love that honesty. That's like, look, I'm about to take you down this road, and your instinct is gonna be to fight me, and I need you to just lean in just a little bit because you know something's fucked up too.
Yes, yes. And
Because he's been able to watch Louis have these moments of like misremembering and not remembering, and he's even obviously he's clocking all that. He's called it out a couple of times, you know.
yes,
So,
the revelations.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, it's fantastic. So, okay, let's go back up to the top here. Louis says, Armand preserves my happiness even when I don't or can't. And we have talked ad nauseum in this show about unhealthy relationships. Okay,
Yes.
this sounds like generosity. This sounds like, unbelievable depths of feeling and care from one partner to another. But I can't hear it in any way that isn't dark and something that I wouldn't
Manipulative.
want. Well, not just manipulative, but literally something that I wouldn't want. Armand preserves my happiness even when I don't or can't. I mean, I don't have a depressive partner. I don't have someone who struggles with suicidal thoughts or tendencies. But I think this is something that we're going to have to address more and more as we go through,
Right.
because Armand has he's been given reasons here. He's been given arguments to make for his actions, but they aren't excuses and they aren't absolutions. They are, boy, it's still fucked up beyond belief what he does through this episode and through the last 40 years, as we know now.
Well, right, and it's interesting too. Like all of this is old news. Like 40 years old, 50 years old. How fucking old is it? It's old news, but it's still like fresh. It's so fresh as they're remembering everything, and as they're like experiencing everything, and as they're realizing, as poor Louis is realizing what has been, what he doesn't remember, and understanding why he doesn't remember it. That's probably the most fucked up part too.
Yeah, I just thank you for correcting me, by the way. I just said 40 years ago for the 70s because I am a 90s child. I'm an 80s child and don't like to remember how old I am. Yeah, 40 years ago is 84.
Yeah.
This is
I
not
just
that.
turned 45. I can do math.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine, Joel. It's fine. We're good. We're fine. It's
Okay.
fine. This is fine.
I love that Daniel asked the question, did we, and just
yes.
hangs it out there.
Yeah.
But then also the way that they go into it. Okay, we get this super thick music mix again, just like in the Meet Cute episode for Armand and Louis earlier in the
Yes.
season that we talked about. And it
The music's
only plays
fucking
in that
brilliant in this
opening.
episode.
The music throughout is brilliant, but the
So-
heavy mix is only there in that one scene.
Right. 'Cause
And
the spell was cast there.
yes.
You
And
know,
it was,
like-
and that's the beginning of the falsehood, right? They have this is what happened, and they start to tell the this is what happened thing, and then as they begin to uncover pieces, that music mix goes away. That
Yeah.
confirms for me that you were right. The music mix in that episode was intentional, and effectively all of that
was
Louis and
bullshit.
all of that Louis and Armand falling
Tell
in
me
love
your
stuff will
episode
get
was
rewritten.
bullshit without telling me your episode was bullshit. It's the music. It was the music. Yeah, it was. That's my little song about that.
Okay, why does Louis call Daniel boy?
Oh, okay. So number one, I do think it's a bit of a power play. I think he wants to stay in control 100%. I also think it's a condescension in a way. And he does call him boy in the book. Like, we don't know his name for the majority of that, right?
Okay, I've actually got the book. I had the book opened earlier. Let me scroll in here. Oh yeah, on the boy's shoulder.
P.S. Not us having to reread every fucking one of these books again and again and again just to like get ready for what's next.
I'm just telling you guys right now, in the off
I
season,
love it.
I'm not rereading Interview this off season. I am going to reread. We're going to read TVL and Queen of the Damned.
Yes, same seas. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, okay, you're right. He says, and I say he in the book, it just calls him the boy. So, like, yes, the boy said quickly. He was folding his handkerchief over and over and wiping his lips now with it again. But that's not. There's no name given.
Right.
I don't think. Now that I think about it, I don't think we know the name Daniel Malloy until Queen of the Damned.
Yeah, unless you might be right. That might be true.
Because in TVL he's not really mentioned at all, other than as the interviewer or something. Lestat references when he's talking about the book. Anyway, I'm sure our listeners will tell us whether we're wrong on that or not. There you go.
Please and thank you. We are here for it.
But you might be right. That would be interesting to make that connection there too. Okay, let's talk about Daniel just skinning off everything, fulfilling my side of the social contract.
He's like, we're here for drugs and things. Drugs and things.
You have the drugs and I have the things.
I have the things to trade for the drugs. I'll take the drugs so you can have the things.
Worth is often miscalculated. Great line from Louis early in the show. Daniel cuts him off to say, because of its hue, which is I like that he's poking Louis, by the way, there, and he does it again later when he asks if Louis moved to San Francisco for the homophiles.
Yes.
And you're like, what? You got naked and got on, why are you poking like that? But I think he's right. Later, he says it to Armand later in the episode. He's got a gift for pulling things out of people.
Right.
And that was there even before he met these two. Okay. Daniel being so high that he forgot to put the tape in.
Oh, I mean, haven't we all? Bless.
I also love how, so Louis finally pulls his fangs and runs across the room at him and shows him that he's not lying to shake him up. And then almost immediately Daniel's into the fang thing and is asking for it.
Yeah. Can you just flash those fangs again? That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm into that. It is everything about what they're discovering feels real. But it also feels, and part of it's musically what's being done. There's that one note that's being repeated that I'm sure someone can tell me what note that is. I should have figured it out on my own. But that note, that repetition of it, and it's just occasion, you'll forgotten that that's what the music's been doing, and then it does it. And it's so hypnotic in its own way. It just, them figuring out this mystery of what happened and how what happens in the past, what we see in the scenes starts to look realer and realer and more frightening as they figure it out. Because I think even Louis is scared at that point, because even though maybe not scared is the right word, but he knows his shit's been fucked with by this point. His memory's been messed with, and he knows, he knows the situation got way more intense than Armand has ever let him remember it being.
Yes, absolutely. I want to give him his flowers here because this is his episode. Luke Brandon Field, baby Eric Bogosian.
Oh my God, baby Eric Bogosian,
young Daniel Malloy. He's just amazing. Kelly called it out too when we finished our rewatch. She was telling me, she's like, I think that performance from him is probably my favorite acting, but that's the biggest acting performance in my opinion of the whole show so far.
So good. So good. In the behind the scenes, they said that when he was hanging out with Bogosian in New Orleans and wherever, he was always around. He was just kind of watching him and sort of soaking up his mannerisms and paying attention to things he said and how he said them, and was able to introduce so much of that into his performance, which I love. It's like the Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi more perfectly than you could possibly imagine. It's nice to see that sort of delivery on a role that's already been established by an already established amazing actor.
I mean, what a gifted guy, but also how fucking lucky to find someone who looks so perfectly like Eric Bogosian,
Right?
and then also someone who's so willing to study mannerisms and speech patterns, and to really absorb the character like he's done here, but then also to figure out psychologically, okay, but let's take that back, before the abuse that these two put on him, before the 40 years of bad marriages and
Right. And
angry children and
mistakes
etc.
and
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
fascinating.
It is.
He's in
Like it's
he's
such
in
a great
Jojo Rabbit. Is the other thing. He's
Oh,
in The Flash, and he's in Jojo Rabbit. I haven't seen The Flash yet. I have seen Jojo Rabbit. I don't remember him specifically, but I'm going to go back and watch his performance there again, because he is really, really something.
yeah, I'll definitely pay attention to that. He's fantastic. He was so great in this episode. And kudos to the casting director for finding him, because oh my God. Like I can't imagine anyone that could have done that better.
I want to read you this little paragraph here that I went and pulled earlier. The vampire sat down slowly opposite him and, leaning forward, said gently, confidently, "Don't be afraid. Just start the tape." And then he reached out over the length of the table. The boy recoiled, sweat running down the sides of his face. The vampire clamped a hand on the boy's shoulder and said, "Believe me, I won't hurt you. I want this opportunity. It's more important to me than you can realize now. I want you to begin." And he withdrew his hand and sat collected, waiting. I know that Roland Jones has called out that he took this job because of the third book, or excuse me, the second book
The
and the
second
third
book, yeah.
season. He took this job for the third season, but he loves this Interview with the Vampire book just as much as we all do. And
Absolutely.
I cannot, I can feel the, like, anxiousness that he must have had to get to this moment. Oh, let me get to say, "Don't be afraid, just start the tape."
Right, right. Absolutely. It's such a beautiful thing. Oh, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. And I love that they had set him up, and young Daniel even comments on it, like you don't have the same, basically, you don't have the same vibe you did in the bar. Like you're not as like chill and confident and whatever. And it does. He feels very different in sitting down to tell this story. And it is a big shift in him, and that lets you know what Louis is looking for that night is to offload some of this. But why right now? Why then? Why? And why did Armand leave him alone with him, knowing full well? I don't know. It's great. It's so great. I love it. I love it.
Well, I mean, and that's as much has been unveiled to us in this episode. There are so many outstanding questions, and one of the biggest ones for me is like, why is Armand letting him do this? And why did Armand leave to go eat dinner
Right.
when he knows this? I mean, maybe he doesn't
Right.
know
He
this
has
is going
to
to happen.
know.
Well,
He has to know.
he has to know that Daniel's close, right?
Yeah.
That Daniel was, even if he doesn't know that Daniel has uncovered as much as he has, and even if he's not aware of the Talamasca influence now, still, he's got to know that Daniel is close to unlocking some of this, and to
I
leave him alone with Louis means that Louis is going to be close to unlocking it.
Right. I only question and I really question the fact that Armand would definitely be able to get into Daniel's brain, into Daniel's head, unless maybe Louis was trying to block for him, and as they're coming to this understanding and in this conversation that they're having, blocking, using his power to block some of Daniel's thoughts that Armand might be able to pick up on while they're having this tete-a-tete, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, still fascinating things to unlock is my point here. Okay, if we had any doubts about Louis' inspiration for the interview, and I would say either one of the interviews, I don't think we have those doubts anymore. He immediately starts talking shit about Lestat in a specific way that you only ever do if you want to get a reaction. I mean, it's the equivalent of "and your mama" is effectively like.
It really is. And it's so like, and the things he's saying are things that Louis says in the book, I believe, are
Yes,
all like,
a lot of
like
them are similar.
the bitter, kind of poisoned thoughts he has, Lestat has grown into in his mind over time, and and revealing those like how hateful he feels about him at times and how angry he is, but also like it is all in some ways a ploy to bring him to attention, to get his attention, to bring him back out, you know.
So that's my point. I don't think Louis believes those things. I don't think, when he said, in particular to me, the one that really spoke the loudest was when he says, when he played, he did so with no art, no feeling,
yeah.
No feeling or whatever. And I'm like, even
in the memory
well,
we see that's not true.
Yes,
like,
that's what I'm saying.
Even in his memory that could have been fucked up by Armand if Armand wanted to, we see him reveling and enjoying music and singing and all of that. That's huge.
He played "Come to Me" for Daniel in season 1. Remember, he played the record "Come to Me."
Right,
He said,
he does. So you fucking got caught in a lie, dude.
It's a great recording too, and he goes, the original was better, like, so yes, but that moment to me was the one where I go, oh, you're trying to make this motherfucker run at you, like, not come when he feels like it, but I mean, this is the whole episode, the whole original interview for sure. And to me now, I'm hearing in the modern day interview, it's just Louis singing "Come to Me."
Right, big time. He is. I mean, but then you have to weigh in like Armand's influence. But he's doing this outside of Armand's approval. I mean, at least that's what we're led to believe. Armand's like, I didn't think this interview was a good idea. I'm just doing it to kind of humor Louis. So, I mean, he is doing it outside of what Armand would like to be done. I guess Armand just assumes that his fucking brain work and wizardry screwing around in people's heads is strong enough to combat what these two might uncover together.
Well, and I mean, this is something we'll get to in a little while, but about the Armand character in particular, one of the things that I think will make him a really interesting and compelling figure in seasons and maybe even spinoffs to come, is the fact that maybe this all started because he wants it now. Maybe he wants finally to deal with, for whatever reason, he actually has changed. In the novels, we do see an evolution for Armand over
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
And so maybe that's what we're seeing here, is that he's lived in his what did he call it? A prison of empathy, that he built for Armand, for Louis. He's lived in that prison for 40, 50 years.
Emotional manipulator. Oh my God.
You're right.
Oh Lord.
But I mean, maybe he's tired of it too. Maybe he.
No,
and I don't know that he's seen an out. Although I wonder if that's another part of what we're going to see over the course of this series, is him understanding that actually Daniel might be the answer to how he evolves and how he learns. In the interrogation scene we're about to get to, I think I see glimpses of something that Armand might want from him. So we'll get there in a second, though, because first off, I want to get to, and Kelly called it out too, this is one of the most accurate representations of how dirty a long-term marriage fight can get.
Oh,
and how perfectly tuned both of them are to hit all the fucking buttons. They're like, oh, you want to take this fight from 1 to 12? Excellent. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that brother that jumped off a roof? How about your sister that buried you?
Yeah. It's literally the meanest things you could possibly say. And like, I really pride myself in my relationship with my husband, that we decided very early on that we didn't want to fight dirty like that. Like, cause it wasn't fair and it wasn't ever going to meet what we wanted. Because what we wanted when we were having a disagreement was to come to a solution that was okay for everybody. What these guys want when they're fighting like this is to hurt each other. And that is not how I want ever to fight with anyone I love. I mean, we all fuck up and do it sometimes, but like I, particularly in our marriage, that's something that we decided real early on, that we were like, I am not going to fucking fight with you to win points. And I used to do that big time.
Well, I mean, I think even in the best relationships, it's hard not to occasionally go there, right? When things are raw or in the moment, or the right argument is had for whatever reason,
For
or
sure,
when you're when you're hangry, right? You just
or when you're vulnerable, when you know you fucked up, and that's usually what happens.
you're
is
guilty.
when you know you fucked up, when you know you should have done something a different way or a better way, and then it's brought to your attention, and you're like, well, now I'm a fucking asshole, right?
Yeah, exactly.
No, you're not an asshole. You just fucked up. Acknowledge it, say you're sorry, and move on.
Do you want out of this prison of empathy that I've built for you?
Oh my God. Shut up. That is so hateful. Like, if you have somebody in your life that you have built a safe place for because have been through some shit, and you build a palace of empathy for them, how fucking dare you throw that back in their face? That is so fucking the shittiest thing I can imagine. Like, oh, I spent all this time being empathetic to you and your needs, and now you suck. Like, fuck you, buddy. Oh, it's just, I hate it.
Here's what makes it the absolute best, though, Ashley, is because this whole fight starts and then escalates from, but it starts over cleanup. Somebody didn't do the dishes.
Oh my God, you didn't do the fucking dish. You are so right. You fucking messed the apartment up.
Oh man. Okay, but then Louis. Oh my God. And again.
Also, can we talk about real quick before I forget?
Yes.
128 boys, 128 young men, 128 people, 128 persons.
Okay, we're absolutely going to get there in a minute when I want to talk about Armand and Armand moving forward, especially. But Jacob Anderson. Okay, I want to say I think Jacob's a gift. He's just such a gift in this show. Now, I will say, Kelly called to my attention for her, and she says very specific. She said, "I want to word this just right." For me, when Jacob is whining, quote unquote, and specifically we called out a couple of them. I'm like, "What do you mean when you say whining?" She's like, "Yeah, not that. That's mad. What do you not this? That's sadness." But her things of whining was one example was when he goes out into the sun and Daniel asks him, "You went into the sun? Did you remember that or whatever?" And Jacob says, "I'm remembering it now." And the way that he delivers that in season 1, there's a moment where he says, "I want this. I want to remember." She said to her, those moments ring false. They don't play right for her. She said, "I don't know enough about acting," and et cetera, to like impute. I mean, whatever. If it reads for you, same thing.
No.
Assad for her is not. She's like, I wish they had a sexier actor as Armand. It's not working for her at all. I know it is working for most of our group though.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Even self-proclaimed haters of the murder goblin are having a good time indeed, especially with the white shirt.
Listen,
got a very Colin Firth coming out of the lake vibe.
The white shirt's the one when that's what he's wearing when he comes back in and he's like, "I'm cleaning up the house again." Is that the one?
Is he wearing it then? This all made me so uncomfortable. Domestic violence really makes me uncomfortable.
I have to go look it up. I think he's got a white shirt on there.
I dissociate a little bit. I'm going to be honest, but
listen to me. When he comes in the room, and I don't know what this says about me, Ashley, but when he comes in the room and he points that finger at Louis and he goes, "Cleaning up your mess again." He's never looked better than in the 30 seconds.
You're into business time, Armand. You're like, this is what Armand looks like when Armand's getting shit done. He's annoyed because not only have you left me a mess, you've left me a mess while you've been talking about your ex. This is unacceptable.
Okay. Louis just outburst. "This is boring. You're boring. You're so boring." Ashley, okay, first of all,
Ooh.
I was sad for Armand in that moment. I'm sad for Assad. And then at the same time, Lestat Lover is dancing over here. I'm like, you know who ain't boring?
He's not. It's because he's not your guy. It's because it's not your guy. Yeah, 100%. Like and that's clearly just a slap in Armand's face. Armand knows what he is not. He is not Lestat. He knows that he is not Lestat, and they don't have a lot of similar qualities at all, except maybe somewhat of a curiosity about shit. I don't even know if that's accurate.
I don't think so. They're not the same.
Different, and it is, and especially for someone who is so Lestat, so like huge. larger than life, just fills the space with his energy. And I mean, and my God, it's Sam Reed. It's like we're seeing the most perfect version of this character that I can imagine being portrayed for a very long time. And to be called boring next to that light, oh, my soul, that would be so sad.
Ashley, he asks Armand, "Are you going to lick my boots or chop off my hands?"
Yeah.
Ashley,
Yeah.
Ashley, they are
Yeah.
going to do so much shit in season 3. We are not ready for it.
I don't even know if I'm ready for these last 2 episodes, to be honest. Like this one I watched the first time through. I watched it very like, okay, this is all happening. Everything that we've known was going to happen all season is happening right now. It's happening. Okay, like so inhale it and like experience it. And then when I watched it again, I was just like, the whole horror of it all kind of hit me, because I did see a lot of like what I would consider to be kind of overreactions to the episode on like Twitter X, which Twitter is the only thing I will dead name. I think it's so fucking funny.
Strongly agree.
I strong agree there. Twitter, just like people having huge reactions to this episode, and to me, it was not big comparisons to season 1, episode 5, and to me, it was not as horrifying as season 1, episode 5 was. It wasn't as blatantly violent, but man, the shit that Armand does to poor Daniel is so upsetting, and makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah, boy, there's a lot that's currently making me uncomfortable, honestly. But I specifically wanted to call out that line. I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't read the books, but that is a reference. And Louis, at least 70s Louis, knew some stuff about Armand's past.
Right.
So there we go. I love when they do each other's accents, Ashley.
Oh my God, so fucking funny.
My brother jumped off a roof.
And that is, they're not listening to what each other is saying at all. They are just saying what they need to get off their chest, big time.
I loved that I was right about the Lestat rhyme. So that comes in the 70s here. And first of all, I think, even in the flash that we got from that in the trailer, I think I had connected it with his 70s hairstyle or something. But the bouncy curls, he's got a thing there going that I really like. But also, we get some information here. The name has been unuttered in their home for 23 years. So we're in 73. They haven't thought about him since 1950.
Right.
However,
that math is accurate, Joel.
In those 23 years, he's killed 128 boys.
Yeah.
So he might not be saying it, but he's taking it out on somebody on a regular basis.
He's taking it out on somebody. Yeah. Well, and he talks about Lestat's favorite victims. He's telling Daniel that. He's telling Daniel that in the past.
Yes. Yeah. You hear a clip of it where he's like, Armand plays the tape, doesn't he? And he gets the little piece. It's the same piece, by the way, that is in the 94 movie where we like the scene so much where Brad Pitt eats the dog.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. I fucking love that scene.
But yeah, he goes, his third kill for the evening would be a fine young man, a man such as yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Daniel Malloy, man. Poor Daniel Malloy.
I know, right? Okay, we get Louis here saying, first of all, Louis begins to mutter to himself, disassociate a little bit, and you're like, is it the drugs? Is it what's going on with him? And then he says, she's calling me. Okay, I want to mark this here, and we'll get back to it in a little while, because again, it's spoiler territory for the books. But let's circle, help me remember that. We'll circle back to it at the end, talk about where this comes from in the books. Yeah, okay, and then again, Kelly, it didn't read right for her, but I loved it. I'm remembering it now when he's teary-eyed.
I'm remembering it now, yeah.
As he remembers this moment.
I'm 100% in on those moments. Like, I feel like he is... That's a Louis I recognize. I feel like a lot of the Louis that I'm seeing is like a front to protect himself or to pretend that something isn't wrong when he knows something's deep down he knows something's very wrong.
I was not sold on the look of going into the sun when we first saw it in season 1. Louis
Lord.
rashly gets mad at Lestat and rushes out into New Orleans, and he starts to be burned.
Which that could happen to anybody in August. You could just be a person and you just go outside in New Orleans in August. My God.
Let me suggest to you that you would not turn into dust in New Orleans. You would turn into a thick sludge that would roll down your sides.
It would be a
stick
real
in your
sludge.
armpits and your underwear. Yeah.
Then a horse would piss in it.
Okay. But I love it here, honestly. I don't know that they've improved it at all or changed it. Maybe I've just gotten with it, but the imagery of him on that roof is really, really compelling. And I mean, I love it. I think about, I think it's the end of season 2 in True Blood, where I'm not going to spoil anything, but an elder vampire takes to the sun, and you see that happen. And it's a really beautiful moment, honestly, in the show. And, I didn't like the effect, though, then. They figured this out, and it's a way Did you like when Claudia... visually.
When Claudia put her arm... Claudia put her arm into the skylight?
So I don't love it. I haven't loved it at all so far. And I think it is the dust effect that bothered me, and I don't know why that was. I'm like, why? I mean, it makes sense in retrospect. The point that they're trying to show you is that,
more char is a little off-putting.
Yes, I guess. I don't know.
You want more fire, less char. Char at the end.
Yes, or it seemed like less cinder would be better. I guess like they're turned into ash in a way. It's like they're dissolving on a molecular level or something, which honestly makes sense. Like if you think about the way vampirism works in this universe, like it all tracks, I guess. And for whatever reason, I'm on board with it now. And this imagery was beautiful. I can think of moments in later books where we might see more of this, and I think, actually, that's going to be pretty badass. So I'm down. I'm down with it. Okay, I want to attack this though because again, like this episode, I felt like is like one of the most brilliant cross examinations ever shown on TV or something. The way that Daniel pursues this. Right there in that moment, Louis had the revelation that he went into the sun and he's freaking out about it. And Daniel says, sidestep the big picture, get the story straight first.
Yes.
Okay.
Brett and I both clocked that big time. We were like, I fucking love this. And the way that they continue to focus each other back.
Yes.
To keep each other on track. The whole like last quarter of this episode is them like, no, we're so close. We're so close. Stay here. Stay with me. Go here. Go here. Remember this. Remember that.
I mean, he could let Louis get mad, and Louis would leave. He'd fly off, probably, because I'm guessing he can fly at this point, honestly.
He might set something on fire.
Yes, exactly. And probably go attack Armand or whatever. They have a big fight, and Daniel never knows the truth. Maybe Armand kills him. Maybe Armand kills Louis. Who knows, So, no, wait. Get the whole thing unlocked. And at least now, even if he does come back and kill us both, we'll know. We'll know what happened. Mm-hmm. And if I can get through to you in the right way, then I've turned you, and you and I together can figure this out and get out of this whole thing alive.
Right.
So,
you can't be completely blinded by the ultimate betrayal or what have you. You've got to be fucking focused on, what happened next. Not how you feel about what happened next. What the fuck happened next?
Man, okay. Lestat is a great line. Gets mirrored in a so fucking dark way. He's fine. He's just fine. You're fine. This is fine. We're all
it was
fine.
Awful. That was fucking horrifying.
And him levitating and
voice.
being thrown behind him, like, oh my God.
That was awful. That was awful. I was so I was frightened. Like that is an Armand to be frightened of. I don't think we always see why we should be frightened of Armand. That is why you should be frightened of Armand. Like, that really, really bothered me. I hated it. I mean, I loved it, but I hated it. You know what I mean?
Yes. All right, here's where we get the revelation. Well, no, I think you're right. I think it was mentioned earlier in the argument between Armand and Louis, but here, Louis tells Daniel 128 times he's brought boys back. Drugs, sex drained him. He didn't drain you.
Yep.
That makes you worthy of investigation. But
What makes
Boy.
you fascinating?
First of
Fuck
all,
you.
let's talk about the fact that Louis is so proud of himself that he hasn't killed anyone since whatever the year 2000 or whatever he said earlier
Right.
in season 1. And you're like, homie, you had your share. Don't worry about it.
Right. You got yours. Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back there.
Okay, Daniel says, trying to beg for himself when Armand finally gets him, he says, I could be on my knees in a second.
Oh God. Bless.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the story. And
Ever the rent boy.
And when I was in college, the first quarter that you were in college at Tech, you had to take this thing called it's like university seminar or something like
Yeah.
that. It was basically like how to be a college student, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I took an honors university seminar class, and the guy that taught it was this very eccentric professor who'd been there since the 70s. And he kind of took things in a different direction since he assumed as honors students we were all going to be just fine being grown-ups now. So like we did a lot of philosophy discussions in this class. We did a lot of ethics discussions in this class. It was really, really cool. But one day in particular, he's playing these ethics games with us, and he's talking about like single mother, ill baby, et cetera, no money, forced into prostitution, and like what do you do with that situation and how do you react to it and whatever. And, most of the class is like understanding and empathetic and trying to put themselves in the shoes and like, this is why we need a more understanding justice system and blah, 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 blah. And there's a handful of people who are like, I don't know, it's just such a terrible thing to do. And how could you ever, whatever. There's this one guy, though, who is very confident of himself. Bet he wasn't 18 yet, because I wasn't anyway. But he speaks up very forcefully and he says, I would never use my body like that. And the professor comes from across the room. I mean, you'd think he was a vampire the way he moved. Boom, right there in front of him. He comes from across the room and he throws his foot up on the desk in front of him. And he leans down right in the kid's face and he goes, son, you'd give it up for a candy bar they give you down in Angola.
Holy shit. Oh, damn.
You'd give it up for a candy
Angola
bar.
Being
They get
like
you.
One of the most horrific state penitentiaries in the history of the United States.
It's the work farm prison in South Louisiana.
Fucking awful. Oh my God.
You'd give it up for a candy bar. They get you down in Angola. I have, anytime I think too high and mighty of myself, my whole life since then, I kind of think,
remember that.
Yeah, you'd give it up for a candy bar. They get you down in Angola. And that's a crude way to say it. And like, obviously modern professors probably wouldn't treat their freshman students that way. But
no,
at the same time,
look, listen.
It's true though. Like
people do what
don't
they have to
know
do to survive.
Yes,
and sex work is work. Let's be real.
Yes.
if that's what you're doing to pay your bills, that is what your body, your choice, right? Like as long as you aren't being fucking forced into something that is bad. But then when they're in this situation, it gets real gray because we're talking about a drug addict that's like fucking like is so addicted and so desperate for their next hit. And that's, again, like, why don't we have better support systems in place for this situation in the United States?
Yes. Yes.
Otherwise, you might turn into a fucking vampire.
Well, Ashley, we don't have the laissez-faire attitude of 1940s Paris.
We do not. We do not. We do not indeed. I think our interest rates are too high for that or something.
Man, so Armand tells Daniel that you're going to teach me how to be fascinating.
Oh, God. It's so horrible. You guys.
Okay.
Oh.
It occurred to me, though, that this entire episode, really, this episode, honestly, the whole series is Armand screaming to Louis over and over again, chose another one over me. Chose another one over me. Just like Claudia said to him in the 40s.
Like
it's crazy.
Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. Yeah, it's very bad. It's very bad. It's not a good look. Or is it healthy?
I love the story that Daniel tells about the interview with the KGB agent. And Louis is like, what's the point, Daniel? And he goes, no point other than fuck your boyfriend.
Right. And he's like, that's a spirit he is carrying through the rest of the scene. Fuck this guy, man. He's a real dick. And just like remembering the utter physical abuse, mental abuse he put him through just in that short period of time. but also a period of time that he thought was a day, and it was 4 fucking days.
Yeah. At least 4 days.
That's some Guantanamo shit. Like, I am not about this. It is bad news bears.
I will say, I think this, first of all, sadly, kind of ruins Erica Robert Paulo's theory that Alice isn't real and that the daughters might not be real. And I also think this precludes an ongoing relationship with Armand. I don't think we can now have a Devil's Minion style, decade long.
You don't think that even though it's fucked up, he doesn't want to go back to him? Come on, Joel. What books have you been reading?
You really think so? You think we're going to learn that this isn't the only so Armand kept him on the side without Louis knowing?
No, I don't even think that. But you think at the end of this, if Armand isn't the choice that he gets to make, that's not that like he'll. I'm just saying.
I do think, and we'll go there in a little while. I do think Armand and Daniel end up having a relationship. Yes, I do think that is where we go. But let's flesh that out in a minute, because that goes a little bit into some of the other books.
It does.
But I do think none of that has happened yet. I don't believe that there was like a second house that Armand kept in the 70s, and Daniel and he had an ongoing relationship. I don't think that.
Though there is a second house, because he says you didn't.
He's got a bunch. You're absolutely right. Okay. Armand says that he listened to the tapes, all of them, twice, and then he lays out what he assumes and what we now assume, I think. Louis, were you hoping that this would get published and that Louis Lestat might walk by and see your book and buy a copy and read the lies that you told about him and then come chasing after you again? Is he only talking about Paris, or did Lestat chase them previously?
Oh, I think it's clear that's what he wants. If Lestat has chased them previously to Paris or since Paris.
Yeah, since Paris is what I meant.
Then I would say that Armand for sure did not let Louis know about it in the least. And if they were on the move suspiciously, that was probably why.
Yeah, okay. That's a good read. So Louis wouldn't probably have known of a previous interaction, but maybe Armand and Lestat had another fight, say in 62 or something.
Right. or just bump into each other, like bump into each other in the minds of other vampires. I think that's like, there's such an easy thing to be able to see what someone else is doing through the eyes of someone else. You can get like a couple of degrees of separation from your daddy vampire.
Armand is such a withholding bitch. I know the joke has always been that Louis is withholding, but here he is. He connects them. First of all, the way that he does it. One more service for you before I leave you to yourself. So fucking bitter. But then he connects. He finds Lestat. He finds Lestat's mind. He's speaking to Lestat. He shares his voice and his words with Louis, but he won't tell Louis that Lestat is saying "I love you."
Right.
I mean, I understand why it would choke in his throat, but also, like, you want to talk about a prison of empathy you built, asshole. Like,
exactly. That's why he doesn't have a fucking leg to stand on. They've just been fucking with each other for however long they've been together, because Louis isn't not in love with Armand. He's in love with maybe the idea of Armand and the idea of what Armand can give him, but it's not enough to keep him satisfied through the years. Clearly, it's not enough to. They fought about Lestat. What they said. How many years ago?
23 years. They haven't spoken his name in 23 years.
Yeah, so they hadn't spoken his name in 23 years. But 23 years ago, they had another fight about him.
Yeah.
And then before that, they had another fight about him. And before that was Paris. So they had a big fight about him then, And so it's like, you just can't get out of the cycle.
So, okay. Locking up someone's mind and rewriting their past is not the answer to a partner who is depressive and has suicidal tendencies.
No.
But, and this is a slight spoiler for the books. The way that they've laid this out, it makes sense to me now how Armand could have done all of this and not be a villain the whole rest of the series, or not
Right.
just a villain, right? He will always be the guy that did these things. That's not going to go away.
Right,
just like some version of episode 5 from season 1 actually happened between
Is real.
Lestat and Louis, right?
Right.
Not maybe, we don't know that it's all real, but some version of that probably did happen. And Lestat will always be the guy that did those things too, right?
Right. 100%.
And he's always the one that was shitty as a master to Louis and Claudia, honestly, in New Orleans. He was young and dumb and whatever.
This kind of brings in the question: Are we our worst moments? Because
Yes.
you're talking about a lifetime for these vampires is for Armand already over 500 plus years. For Louis is well on its way to many hundred years, and this is this is what it's like sometimes. If we went back, 20 years in our lives, I'm sure we'd find some shit that we'd rather not have done and shouldn't have done and probably feel shitty about. But you know what? Fuck it. It happened. It's part of our lives. We move on. And I guess it's probably even easier to be that way if you're a vampire and you have like 400 years behind you and you're like,
Yeah.
I got 400 ahead. I'll probably worry about this for another 110, and then I might let it go.
Yeah. I mean, and also, and I think we often forget this when talking about like vampire politics and vampire relationships, but like, these are creatures that kill to
They're all
survive.
monsters.
So like, yeah, these are not good people. This is not like your old friend from high school that stole your boyfriend, and now 30 years later you're sharing an apartment together or something. Like, this is not the same thing.
No, but it feels like it sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's everything's on such a much larger scale, and then like when you look at it deeper, it's on such more of a like minute scale, which I love. Just again, the best stories. I'm so happy we're getting to watch it in this way.
So we called out a couple of weeks ago the Playboy story, short story
yes.
about Armand, where he teaches his method of killing. And in the novels, it's sort of described as finding those that long for death is what Armand does, and that's what he enjoys. But it's also like his particular little power is being able to pull out this. Right, exactly. Okay. It is unnerving, though, watching it happen on camera, Ashley, when he does this to Daniel and tries to break him down and pull out the death, effectively, is what he's trying to do.
It's awful.
Whew, it's heavy, man. It does remind me, though, not to make another Hannibal allusion, but I'm gonna do it. It's the Mason Verger story, the character from the novel Hannibal, where he, got this guy high and then talked him into cutting his face off and feeding it to his dogs. Like, this is
fucked up.
It's messed up. It's real messed up. But I mean, Armand is effectively pulling out primal pain from this dude and turning him into a position where he asks for death, begs for it,
and
loves Armand for it.
If you need a funnier example to get you through, I would say the scene in The Goonies where Chunk is doing all of his confessions and they're threatening to put his hand in the blender is kind of on par with this on a much smaller scale.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Oh God, yeah, yours is way better than mine.
No, yours is better and more accurate. Mine is just going to break the tension if you've been feeling stressed.
Okay, so but this is. And again, this isn't a spoiler because I don't know what they're going to do in the show, but my guess is Armand and Daniel end up together. Right. This interrogation is horrifying, and yet, what does Armand learn?
You mean in the present, not?
I mean,
yes,
in the present day. I mean in 2020s.
That's what
I think old man Eric Bogosian ends up with Assad at playing Armand, and the reason I think that honestly starts right here because. And honestly, this may be all that it comes to when why would Armand agree to all this? Maybe he literally just wants to see Daniel again. This interrogation is horrifying, and Armand hopes to find, as he says, just a black hole. He's expecting just a black hole from Daniel, and that's all he thinks is there. But Daniel fights this Armand programming in a way that I think is totally unexpected from Armand. And why is it? Daniel loves life. Daniel's got a passion and fire for his own existence that is compelling to Armand in a way that he's probably never had a companion. It is like the joie de vivre that Lestat has, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like and Lestat, there's a great quote from I think it was Queen Elizabeth, right? I could be born anywhere in Christendom with nothing but my knickers, and I would not only survive but thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Or nothing but my undergarments, I think is the way that she put it. But like, that's Lestat. He is gonna not just live, but enjoy life, no matter his circumstances. He's gonna find it, right, and claim it. And Armand does not have that in him. It's literally been trained out of him in this show, anyway.
Well, I mean, and in his story in general, it has been. I mean, he had the only time he ever really had that was with Marius. Yes,
and even there, what we know of this version anyway so far seems like that was more abusive even than we imagined it in the books. In the books, it's like the age gap and the domination factors that are not.
The vampire would have us believe.
Yes. That's what so maybe it's not. But I mean, what we know so far of that story is not as pleasant as it was in the books. And even in the books, it's challenging.
It's not great. It's not great.
So anyway, though, I just wanted to call that out. I think the spark that Armand sees in Daniel there is something that is fascinating. And I think it'll be fascinating for Armand. And I think, whenever season 3 begins with Louis exiting Armand's life, which is exactly how I think that's going to go.
Right.
Or at least for a while, I think Daniel is going to be part of that story for Armand. We'll see.
And I also wonder, I hope we don't lose this thread of the story. Like, we can get Queen of the Damned ready while we're doing Vampire Lestat. They've pretty much shown that they can do that with this season in and of itself. You know what I mean? Like, they have gotten us very ready for the Vampire Lestat with just a couple of things that we've gotten to see so far.
Well, okay. The thing that occurred to me tonight, Ashley, what if the reason we haven't gotten a season 3 renewal confirmation is because it's not coming next? What's coming next is, in fact, the Vampire Lestat, which will be a show that centers Sam Reed and that has Jacob Anderson as the second lead.
Right.
And what we will get eventually after that will be season 3 of Interview with the Vampire, featuring the Vampire Armand as the lead and Daniel Eric Bogosian as his second.
Oh, you think we might go back and forth?
I think, because look at what Star Wars has done, right? Like, you build out multiple shows because you need to run them. The production schedules are separate, et cetera, et cetera. These stories cross over for sure, but these characters do not have to all exist at the same time. You don't have to film them at the same time. You don't have to do these things together at all. Armand's backstory could exist entirely separate from Jacob and Sam.
Yeah.
And you could do a season or 2 of a modern day Devil's Minion storyline and a past the Vampire Armand book, and then come back into the main fold with, whatever the big crossover is when everybody has to fight Akasha or whatever comes,
I guess a lot will depend on how the rest of the viewership for the season goes.
Yes, obviously.
And this sucks too. Like, we gotta watch Mayfair because, obviously we have to watch it to talk about it, but like, we've got to fucking support the whole project, like, bless us. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
I love the revelation that, in fact, it wasn't Armand that saved Daniel. It was Louis that saved Daniel in the 70s. Louis is the one, sort of like with Claudia in this version too. Louis did the damage, and then someone else started to clean it up, right? Louis made a mess, and Armand came in and was going to kill him, and then Louis saved Daniel. And not just saved Daniel in that moment, but gave Daniel the core. Right, for 50 years now. He kept Daniel alive.
50 years. He kept him alive. Like, of all anything, and I kind of loved that. I was like, what's he saying to him? What's he saying to him? And then when that was revealed, I was like, oh, fuck, that's awesome. That's so fantastic. It was one thing that could center him, that he could, like, it was like his totem,
Yes. All right, let's skip to we're at the end of the episode anyway, but let's go to the episode insider here because we're over an hour already. There's a prop conversation. No, this is an episode that deserved it. There's a prop conversation about the backgammon case full of drugs, right?
Okay. Can I tell you, this is so funny. I don't know if any of you guys are into watch a lot of stand-up comedy, but oh God, who did Nanette? Hannah Gadsby has this funny thing about this in their newest special. They have the funniest thing about this backgammon case that they had at their house. And it was the fanciest like piece of anything they owned, and so they would take it to school and be like, "I'm on business." So that's all I could think about when he pulled up this fucking case. It was like, "I'm on business. Here's some drugs." It's so
That's
funny
perfect.
to me. I was dying. Yeah, backgammon case. I'm on business. What can I interest you in?
So the case was fantastic, and I was very intrigued. And I honestly didn't notice it the first time that I watched it, but our group called it out in the comments next to the backgammon case on the table where the props master is discussing it are two copies of a novel called Interview with the Vampire
that we all know and love.
And it ain't our world's copy of that book. I'm fairly certain that is not an edition that exists anywhere. The speculation, at least, is that this is an in-universe copy of the book. So the book gets published. My guess is, here's what I'm saying. My guess is the book gets published in episode 8 of this season. And I'm telling you, episode 8 is not episode 8 of season 2. It's episode 1 of whatever comes next. Yeah, or if they're going to do it as a spinoff. I don't know I honestly don't know how the business of TV would impact the idea of naming the shows multiple things and crossing characters back and forth. I don't know how that's going to play out for the contracts.
I think it makes sense though that's what's held up the announcement though.
I mean, the show is clearly doing well enough for AMC to continue to pursue this. And as we've mentioned before, the long-term investment for them with the rights and the sets that they've built and all the deals that they've made with actors and crew, like that's the real commitment. Like putting out another season is an arguable little addition to the whole spreadsheet, you know? And so I mean, I think there will be another commitment. Why haven't they done it yet? I think this is why. I think there's something about the final episode that will make that something that you can't really say until it's all out there.
I wonder if we'll get the title announcement this week, or if they just won't give it to us until after it airs.
That's a good question. I don't know, man. I don't know if we're going to get it at all. And that would be cool if we literally didn't know the title. You know, I wonder if they'll put it in TV Guide as TBD.
Right?
That would be fascinating. Okay, let's do a little book spoiler chat here.
Yes.
We mentioned it earlier. I want to come back to this. All right. So the Merrick novel, which comes out, I'm trying to think where that lines up. It's after Memnoch the Devil. Is it the next? No, it's not the next book.
It's after Blood and Gold?
Yes, there you go. You're right. So we get Pandora, we get the Vampire Armand, which we've already in our book discussions on our show. You can go back and listen to those if you have not read those novels yet. Read the novels and then listen to our episodes. But then you're right. The next one would be, well, actually, technically the next one would be Vittorio the Vampire, which is a sidequel, doesn't have anything to do with our series at all. And then the next one in the actual Vampire Chronicles is, I'm pretty sure, Merrick.
Merrick, yeah.
Merrick is not a Lestat forward novel. He's basically not in it very much, or not till the end. It's really a Louis novel, which is interesting because there aren't that many. And it's also obviously a Merrick novel. Another character that features heavily is David Talbot. But the reason we want to bring it up here, and this is the reason why it is a spoiler, in that novel, and it's something that you and I had forgotten about, Ashley, we spoke earlier this season about Louis not having committed suicide.
Not like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
But it happens in that novel. He goes into the sun in that novel. He writes a letter to David Talbot after he makes Merrick into a vampire, and then he goes into the sun. He's saved in that novel and returned to form, but still, it's in the novel specifically, it is very clear that it is Claudia's ghost, or at least what Louis understands to be Claudia's ghost, that compels him to do this. And it's guilt over her death and grief over her loss that makes him go into the sun. And the way that it played in the novel was never very satisfying to me. And honestly, I just never liked Louis that much in the past. And so I was like, it doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense at all, you know? But it's interesting.
Pick at the scab.
Right. It's interesting, though, the way that they lay it all out in the show. And I don't think we'll see that scene, and if we ever get to Merrick down the road, I don't think we'll see that scene now, because this is that. This is clearly that scene transposed, and that grief over Claudia happened to him in the 70s and came to a head like this. I loved it, honestly. I love the way that they brought that forward. I love the way that they grounded it more in Louis' character and made it all make more quote unquote sense. You know, I mean, it's a senseless act, and yet, you know, you can understand how someone can be driven to those places in their mind. So
absolutely, like, my God, I mean, I always love a good portrayal of you know, of tough topics.
Yes.
To be honest, you know, and we've talked some about things that have happened in previous episodes that aren't so easy, you know, and suicide is a fucking difficult topic, and it's hard to talk about, and there's so much shame built up in it, and it's and of course it's a little fantastical when we're watching our vampires grapple with their eternal life.
Yes.
But I mean, it's the same sort of thing that you know, hundreds of thousands of humans deal with on a daily basis.
Well, I mean, I think it just
makes our vampires more human. It makes them, you know, relatable.
Well, it's one of the reasons why we like fiction of any kind, right? Like it's an externalized metaphor for the things that we grind through, but it's not just a story about having to pay the rent and fighting with your partner because they leave cups on the sink, you know?
Right.
It's
right.
like
it's Stephen King said fiction is the truth inside the lie.
Oh.
And that is like one of my favorite quotes.
That's the name of the episode too, by the way. Like, it's so, there you go. God, you're so fucking good at that, Ashley.
Thank you. Yeah, it's, and that is, you know, that's why we love to read books. That's why we love stories. That's why we love to tell stories. That's why we tell our histories and stories about our families. And it just makes you feel more alive.
Yes, it does. It does make you feel more alive, and personally, it makes me understand myself better. I can externalize that and look at an argument over vampiric life and grief over the girl that you had thrown into the sun 60 years ago. And I understand why my wife got mad at me earlier today, and why I'll need to go make it up to her later and be a better husband tomorrow. And anyway, it also makes it easier to worry about paying the rent. I think when you remember you don't have to worry about bringing your boyfriend back from being burnt to a crisp.
Right, exactly. Our problems are not as big as they could be.
Man, what a fantastic episode! This
For
series,
real, you guys. This was so good.
Well, and I know part of my joy in this episode is the revelation that some of the things that we have been bothered by in the past probably going to, retcon's not the right word, because it was always the plan from the beginning now, but again, just renewed faith in the creative team on this thing. Kudos. Hey, Mark Johnson even had a great episode insider. Didn't say anything stupid. Not the whole time.
He didn't say anything completely obvious, like it was a great revelation.
He was so excited to talk about the 70s props, though, Ashley.
Yeah, no, they were real excited. Like, he was like, I personally was, I was the person who made all the decisions about this episode because I know the drugs in the 70s. So
I will say, I immediately thought to myself, that's not the way you build a Coke box. Yeah, Mark knew his way around, it sounded like to me.
Oh, so good.
Folks, join us again next week. We'll come back for episode 6. Can you believe we got 3 more of these, by the way? Like, where are they? Yeah, 6, 7, 8.
Oh my Christ. Okay.
So look, that's what I'm saying. 8 has to be something new. 6 clearly is going to set up our final resolution for Paris.
Yeah.
7 will complete that and then give us resolution on that. 8 is about something new. We are moving forward, y'all. So exciting.
We all agree on that point. We are definitely fucking going forward.
So go watch episode 6. Join us again. I will be back in home environs by the time that one airs. So we'll try to have it on time for you next Monday evening. And until then, we have been your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven.
Thanks for listening to The Articulate Coven. You can join our community on Facebook by following the links in the show notes or searching for Articulate Coven on Facebook. You can subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or at articulatecoven.com. And share us with your Anne Rice loving friends.